Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, hello, friends. How are you doing? Welcome to a new episode of Conscious Cool Chic Radio with Molly McCord, where every Monday and Wednesday we gather to discuss the astrology and energies of right now. And this is a Monday show. I am doing this live December 10th, 2018. However, you might listen to this show in the future and you're still going to get a lot out of it because we're talking about the South Node in Capricorn journey. And this is the transiting South Node that began in Capricorn November 2018 and will remain in Capricorn until June 2020. So we're going to talk about these energies as we go through a cleansing, purging, and completion energy. That is what the South Node does. It shows us what is final, complete, outdated, and what we release, what no longer serves the collective. The Nodal Axis, which is both the North Node and the South Node, are points of oneness in our energies because it's where we are all collectively growing, learning, expanding through the North Node, and conversely releasing, completing, and letting go through the South Node. So it is an indicator of collective energies, of what we're all doing together individually and as a human population, as a family, and what we are meant to learn and understand about these cycles. And so the transiting nodes always show us what these energies are, and they do so not only through the nodal points, but through the eclipses, because eclipses are related to where the North Node and the South Node are. And so we begin new eclipse energies when the nodes change signs. See, it's all connected. So we're going to talk more about what these energies are for you in your own chart as well as in the collective. The South Node in Capricorn is quite big right now because the South Node is going to make a conjunction to Pluto in Capricorn at about 22 and 23 degrees. This happens late March, early April 2019. And then the South Node in Capricorn will be conjunct Saturn in Capricorn at 17 and 18 degrees in late June and early July of 2019. And then again, because Saturn will go retrograde in the summer of 2019, there will be another conjunction of Saturn in Capricorn and the South Node in Capricorn. This happens at 14 and 13 degrees of Capricorn, August and September 2019. So these are going to be huge, giant, big release points of these Capricorn energies that have served a purpose, that have fulfilled their duties, their obligation, what they were here to teach us and show us. Capricorn is an earth sign, so it's about the physical world, changes in the physical world of institutions, companies, governments, anything that has the hierarchy. Essentially, you could relate it to patriarchy energies, and you could relate it to anything where there's a structure that doesn't offer healthy power or integrity or a sense of true power. I mean that in the ways that Capricorn energy, when it's the executive, when it's the administrator, and it's working for the good of all, it sets up healthy systems, good structures, sound institutions. But when there are unchecked areas of power, those are what are revealed. So that's part of the South Node journey, is that we see what has been happening that is no longer connected to collective energies, what serves the best of all, and what has to be released. Now, this also relates to karma, because Saturn in Capricorn is karmic reckoning, and it isn't meant to be punishing. See, karma is actually just about the energy you put out comes back around. And the universe does not judge that. Karma can be good, it can be bad, but energy is neutral until an intention is applied to it. So with this energy, we'll see what intentions were in place when energies began, and we'll see what is happening now in the real world. So this is a very interesting South Node journey. It's very significant because it's one more focal point of energies in Capricorn. And so this pertains to your natal chart. So wherever the Capricorn energies are in your natal chart is where you are experiencing these Capricorn energies that are about looking at what you are achieving, accomplishing your goals, what you are mastering, what you have learned through real-world experiences and how you're taking that knowledge and applying it. It's how you share your energy publicly. It's your public status. Capricorn is typically associated with career, profession, and these areas of your life that are about how you're viewed by others. And with the intense focus here on Pluto in Capricorn since 2008 and Saturn in Capricorn since 2017, December 2017, now we have the South Node coming through. And the South Node moves in reverse, as does the North Node. So they start at 29 degrees and move backwards to 0. And I always think of it as this is the reset button back to the purest intention of this astrological sign. So let's take, for example, we just went through the South Node in Aquarius. And the South Node moving through Aquarius was showing you what people connected with you that perhaps you realized it was done. The energy was complete. The soul contracts were done. Aquarius relates to the audience, networks of people that you know, that you've met, long-standing friendships, acquaintances, people you've met along the way. It can relate to, the tribes that are formed through social media, through the internet, because Aquarius is about technology and the internet. It's about where the energies had to be reset. And that means that maybe there was a clearing out of people. This also relates to your vision of life and what you are aiming for. Aquarius is about quantum energies, forward thinking, the next step, whether that's for the collective or for yourself. And so Aquarius takes us further. And the idea is we go further together. And yet there's times when we have to come back to what is true for you now. And that South Node in Aquarius was basically showing you where there was no longer an energy alignment with some people in your life. And so there could have been the friendships that left, the people that left, the situations that were done. Perhaps it was a dream that you fulfilled and now it's complete, or it's a dream that you no longer wanted to follow, a vision, an ideal, a hope. It all got reset back to 0 as that South Node moved from 29 degrees of Aquarius to 0 degrees. And it depends which house that happens for you to give you a new understanding. But it's a bit like a broom that's clearing it out, right? The broom that sweeps backwards. And so the South Node sweeps backwards and says, come back to the 0 point here. Come back to what you truly need in friendship, in the next dream, the next vision. What is it that is really important to you now? And that's the reset of the South Node in Aquarius. And along the way, you have to let things go. You have to release. You have to be complete, and it can be hard. And I know that the eclipses in Leo and Aquarius were very hard for many people who had a lot of energies in the fixed signs. The fixed signs are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. And those were really rocked over the past year and a half. We have one more eclipse in Leo. That's going to be January 20th, 21st at 0 degrees of Leo. And that's January 21st, 2019. And then the eclipses move into Capricorn and Cancer to help break up and free up the stagnation of these two energies. And so in your chart, the eclipses will shift to different houses, different areas of chart. They'll start to activate and release what you need to see about certain areas of your life. The eclipses typically move in 18-year cycles, but it isn't a regular timing because the eclipse orbits change. So it's not a set timeline. But the last time the South Node was in Capricorn would have been 18 years ago. 18, 19 years ago. So you look back on your life and you look back on what was clearing out for you at that time. And it's going to revisit that part of your chart. So 2000, it actually was the middle of the year 2000 into 2001 and even 2002. So 2000 to 2002 were the last times that we had eclipses in Cancer and Capricorn. And because the orb of the nodes shift, we often have these eclipses that are not always in pairs, or they involve different energies. So again, it's not always a smooth, regular cycle. But just to give you a point of reference, between July 2000 and June 2002 was the last time we had this cycle. So we're meant to look at what parts of Capricorn energies have served their purpose for you and for us. And the Capricorn energies, again, are about the structures that are in place to organize society, to create something useful out of all the information we have. So Capricorn follows Sagittarius. Sagittarius is where we're learning, we're gaining wisdom, experiences, and understanding. We go to college. We go out into the world. We see other cultures. We understand different ways of viewing the world. Then we move into Capricorn, and we have to make it useful. So I think of it as Sagittarius is the topics that are taught in a university, and Capricorn is the school administration. Okay, how are we going to share this information? How are we going to structure it into different classes, different topics, different schools? Who's going to be in charge? Who's going to do this, right? It's putting a structure and a framework to what we have based on what we've learned and based on how far we've come. I mean, it is the 10th astrological sign, so it's been accumulated a lot of information about the real world, about yourself, about life, about anything that really pertains to how we move through the world. So now we have these structures, these systems, these things in place that operate in a certain way, and they're meant to provide a function, they're meant to be useful, they're meant to be practical and beneficial. Capricorn energy, when it's in its strength, it has a lot of integrity, it's disciplined, it can stay the course. It's a very strong energy. And what we're wanting to do is come back to that, to get a reset from that 29 degrees back to 0, that reset button, factory reset, that returns it to that pure, clear place of energy. Now, you look at your phone, and frankly, it could be terrifying to think that your phone would return to that factory reset. Because think about everything you've downloaded or the apps you use or your preferences and your settings and your notifications and just trying to find the right ringtone. But that's a good way to look at this, because there is a reset where things are undone and things have to be lightened up and lost along the way. Things have to be removed to get back to that factory reset place. Now, what is interesting here is that we're going to have a checking in point since the last south node and since the north node was in Capricorn. And the north node was in Capricorn about 9 years ago. And that's when we had teachings, expansion, and wisdom on those Capricorn energies. Because the north node is where we're growing, right? It's where we're learning and we're applying something for the good of all. So 2009, 2010, north node was in Capricorn. And what did we learn then about integrity and having something in place that is powerful and beneficial and true, and what it means to form and establish correct structures, correct organizations, correct businesses, and anything that was out of alignment with that had to go. So this clearing out is interesting in that it's going to be big when that south node makes a conjunction to Pluto, because it's a very rare connection point, and it means something is complete, dead, permanently done, and it relates to the collective's needs and growth and what we're learning about the right use of power. The right use of power. What does that mean? What does that look like? There can be so many ways it's used correctly, and then there's many ways where we don't know how it's truly used. And that goes into the Pluto realms of secrets, corruption, lies, betrayal, power games, etc. So this is going to be an interesting point. Again, it's 22, 23 degrees of Capricorn, late March and early April of 2019. And if you've listened to this show, you know that I just did another episode for you about the 2020 energies that are on that same point. So 22, 23 degrees of Capricorn is truly a key place right now for us to learn about power and how things are really operating and what we don't know and what is happening behind the scenes. And it changes things for good. There's no going back. And this theme is coming up many times, 2019 and 2020 and beyond, many times. And so there's many astrologers who are saying that it's such a big time in human history, yet we don't know what that looks like, right? We don't know because there's many possibilities and many ways it can unfold. But we understand that this is a cycle that humanity's in because some things have to be restructured. They have to be truly built with a new energy, new intentions, and a new understanding of what is for the best of all. So new systems, new structures, new institutions, and yet before anything new happens, the Pluto destroys. So the south node in Capricorn is signaling timing as well. Capricorn's about timing in the real world. It's about the time you put into something to make it happen. It's the time it takes you to earn a degree, for example, because it takes time to learn the information, the knowledge, to apply it. I've been studying astrology now for 3 decades, and there's still stuff I'm learning. But there's time you put into mastery, right? There's time you put into it. This is all Capricorn, the time we put into things. And that's also why the endings can be harsh or hard, because you think about all the time I put into that, or all the time we the collective, put towards something, or the power we gave to someone or to something or to some company. These are some of the themes that come up. And so the Capricorn time element is important, that it takes time to build and to learn and to apply. It takes time to gather experiences in the real world. And we only have so much time in our lives. We only have so much time in a day. So that's another big theme, is that the South Node is going to show us, what are you putting your time towards that really matters to you? And this brings up our own sense of satisfaction in our careers. Capricorn is about careers and profession. And is it truly who you are? Is it truly what matters to you? There's a movie that came out a number of years ago called Wreck-It Ralph. It's a cartoon. And there's a sequel that came out as well. I haven't seen the sequel. But the first Wreck-It Ralph is about Ralph, who is a villain in a video game. And it's a pretty cute movie. And he realizes, he goes to these villain support groups with other villains and other cartoons, arcade games, and they all support each other to be the bad guy. And Ralph says, I don't want to be the bad guy anymore. I'm tired of being the bad guy. And they're all mad at him. They're like, no, Ralph, you have to be the bad guy. You can't change your programming. And then he goes to talk to the other people in the video game, and he's like, I'm tired of being the bad guy. I want to be the hero for once. And they're like, no, Ralph, no. Felix is the hero. You can't be Felix. You can't be the hero. Only Felix can do it. This is how it's done. And so Ralph goes on his own hero's journey into what it means to change roles. And this is part of the 3D matrix, right, of we're all in a role, and maybe we're all on autopilot. And maybe we all thought, I'll go to school, I'll get the job, I'll get a pay raise, I'll get good insurance, I'll do this, and that will be the path. And then you're like, wait a minute, I don't want to be on autopilot. The North Node in Cancer is returning you to your heart. The South Node in Capricorn is saying, this is not the role I want to play anymore. So I thought this movie was a good example of how we're looking at the roles we play, because Capricorn is the role you play publicly. It's your professional title and your job status. And is it really you? And it could have been you. And it's important to have gratitude for what you've learned, for what you've accomplished, to recognize yourself, to understand that it all plays a role, it all plays a part of what you're moving through, and yet you can change your role. And so I just thought this movie was such a great example of that, where people get mad when you change your role because it changes the system. So if there's no villain, then what's the hero supposed to do? If you're not the bad guy, then who's the bad guy? And why does there even have to be a bad guy and a good guy, right? Isn't that interesting how it's set up that way? Because truly we all have those energies inside of us. We all have the good guy, the bad guy, the bitch, the angel, the shadow, and the light, and it all merges. And as we become more conscious, we change that energy. We change it because we understand who we are. And so this is a journey of looking at the roles you've played through Capricorn and to say, do I really want to commit to this going forward? And if you do, great. But at least now it's in a higher state of consciousness that you're choosing it. And you're choosing it because it does satisfy you, also because it's on your terms. It's on your terms. That's another way that Capricorn energy shows up, is that you do things on your own terms. You won't be told what to do. You won't have somebody else in charge of you. It's again, I am my own boss, and I'm the one who determines what I'll put my energy towards. Now, another example of this South Node in Capricorn shows up through some terms that perhaps you've heard before. Perhaps you've heard of the term esoteric. Esoteric. Esoteric is about what we learn through our own knowledge. It's an inner seeking. It is not formulaic. It is not prescribed. Esoteric knowledge is where you step into an energy of your own journey, your own experience, and what you determine from it. Esoteric spirituality is where you are learning about spirituality, metaphysics, energies, on and on the categories go, based on your own experience of them. So astrology is esoteric because it's about your energy and your inner experience of it and what it means to open up to that. Conversely, there's another term called exoteric, E-X-O, exoteric. And exoteric is when the information is from outside of you. It's outside of you, and that's what you take as your beliefs, as how things are, as what knowledge is. So there are exoteric religions, which is the information outside of you that you take in or that you use to structure or govern your life. Perhaps you've heard of an exoskeleton, which is the external skeleton that some animals have. And then there's the internal skeleton, which us humans have. So exo means outside, eso means inside. South Node in Capricorn is bringing you into closer examination with the exoteric knowledge that has governed your life. Information outside of you that you accepted as truth, you didn't challenge, you just took it as this is what it is, because Capricorn is the authorities outside of us until we connect to the authority within us. Saturn and Pluto and Capricorn are helping us connect to the authorities within us. But the South Node is showing us where we accepted what was outside of us, exoteric knowledge. And then the North Node is in Cancer. Cancer is internal, the heart, the feelings, sacred space, private, where you go to feel nourished, to feel safe. And so you could use that as an example of esoteric knowledge, where you go into yourself, you go into your astrology chart, you go into your spiritual gifts, into your wisdom for knowledge and information. So when you think of it in those terms, this is a big shift for us because we're returning to what we each know. And remember how the nodes are about the collective energies, because everyone right now is experiencing these transiting planets. And so collectively, it's this transition. And what was forgotten, what was made small, what was put aside, what imaginary friends did you have in childhood and now they want to come back and play? That's the North Node in Cancer, which, by the way, I have a separate show on the North Node in Cancer, which is why I wanted to do this show on the South Node in Capricorn. So when the South Node makes a conjunction to Pluto, things die permanently, collapse, destroyed, and you can apply these words to different scenarios. And again, we don't know how this will show up, but it's significant. And then the South Node moves on and makes conjunctions to Saturn at 18 degrees, 17 degrees, 14 degrees, and 13 degrees throughout the summer of 2019. And Saturn is authorities. executives, people with power, people with administrative functions. Saturn represents also the father through authority figures, a father figure, God the Father, who we report to. So I have another movie reference for you. Did you ever see that movie, Office Space? It actually came out in 1999. I was in college. My roommate and I were like, that's what we want. Let's watch this movie and get a job and not have to show up to the job. Office Space there's a character in it called Limburg, who walks around the office cubicles. He's the manager, and he asks everyone for their TPS report. And you need to turn in a TPS report to the manager to show what you've been working on, what you've been doing. And so this is a very Capricorn energy. Who you report to, where you demonstrate the time you've put into something, the work you've performed, what you've accomplished, what you've done, what the results are. So the manager shows up to, I'm forgetting the character's name, and is asking for his TPS report. Like, I'm going to need to see your TPS report. And he's like, I'm just not going to do the TPS reports anymore. And so there's a sense of, no, I'm not going to. I don't want to report in. I don't want to show you what I've done. I'm not going to play that game. I'm not going to be accounted for in that way. So that's the rebellious energy of I don't want to work within the system. I don't want to work within the structure. And that could come up for you with the South Node in Capricorn. You don't want to submit your TPS report because you realize something is done for you, whatever that is, whether that's the role, the job, the functions, the performance, whatever that is. You're saying, no, I don't think I will. And how you go about that would depend on how the Capricorn energies work in your chart, as well as how Saturn shows up in your chart. Because if you have a Uranus square to Saturn, or you have a strong Uranus energy, you're like, no one's going to tell me what to do. No one's going to tell me anything. So there's different ways this shows up for everybody. But that's what's happening here, is that we're looking at what no longer fits us. And that means change, and that means something new is ready to come up and come forward. And the answer to what is new could be through that North Node in Cancer. So we have some very powerful Capricorn energies happening. And wherever the Capricorn energies are in your chart is where this is coming up strongly for you. And it's happening in a way that ultimately brings you back into your own mastery. It also brings you back to natal Saturn in your chart, as well as any planets in Capricorn, planets or points. Now, Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. So wherever Saturn is in your chart is where you use the Saturn energy to put in the time, the work, the effort, where you're here to make something happen in the real world. So there's like this reverberation. When there's a lot in Capricorn, you're being pushed to use your Saturn energy. And that's probably in a different sign, by the way. So you're like, oh, I have Saturn in Virgo. Oh, I have Saturn in Pisces. Okay, so then that's the energy you would need to use, is to be, well, how am I using my Saturn? How am I owning my mastery? What is my mastery? What am I here to really put out into the world and to make it real? So all of this comes up in the collective, and then it comes up for each of us individually. And as this each comes up for us, consciously, by the way, this is when you're conscious of it, you can see it happening. You can feel the job dissatisfaction. You can feel where you know you want to do more. You can feel that you're ready and that you get these messages for a job change, a career change, something. And that's what we're meant to pay attention to, is how the Saturn energy is saying, it's time, right? Saturn's about time. It's time to hone in on your mastery expertise. And I realize that for some people this could feel overwhelming. You could be like, I don't know what it is, Molly. I've wondered my whole life. What is it? Well, stay open to that, because now that you're making connections, you can open up and request this support spiritually, energetically, to be shown to you. And it can show up in so many ways, my friends. I mean, Spirit, the universe, God, Source, talks to us in so many ways. So what you'd start by doing is asking for clarity, asking for guidance, asking to know what this is. Show me what this is. What is this? And that's going to help you connect the dots. And where Saturn is in your chart is the area of life that Saturn is here to do the work. There's no shortcuts. Again, it takes the time, it takes the effort, but that's what you as a soul signed up for. And you connect it to these big energies in 2019 and 2020 and beyond. And ultimately, Saturn is going to give you a new sense of self that is stronger. It's a self-ownership energy. It's a confidence through the work you do. You gain confidence by doing something with the Saturn energy. And so we're each needing to do something to make it real, to put in the time, and that's how you develop that mastery, that sense of self, that sense of self-recognition and personal integrity. All key words here. With the South Node in Capricorn, we see what's out of integrity. We see what has been happening in power structures that maybe have been ivory tower, right? The ivory tower collapses. This is definitely a tower moment. You know, if you know Tarot, the tower card means transformation, big changes, big permanent changes. That's all coming through with the South Node. The karma clears out, and there's a lot of karma that's been unresolved. And please know that this can be a wonderful gift at a soul level. Karma clearing, even if it's painful karma, to clear it out, to be done with it, is a beautiful gift to the soul. It no longer contaminates the soul's energy. It no longer hangs around. It's no longer sitting there. It clears it out. So there's everything has its purpose. And my perspective is that everything contributes to our soul growth, and it can be really hard, yes, at times, but it can also be really rewarding. And sometimes those rewards are delayed. Delayed satisfaction is usually not our preference. And it certainly is not the times we live in where you can get anything right now. You don't have to go down to the library anymore to check out a book. You know, you can get anything right now delivered to your doorstep. But we're going to see companies change, governments change, organizations change, institutions change, because these are all Capricorn areas. They're all Capricorn areas. So these are the parts of our lives that are going to be permanently changing, but we know that what we're returning to with that factory reset button is a new understanding of what is essential and what is in integrity in these areas too. And then we're also trusting the Cancer North Node to continue to guide us forward. So that when more information comes out and you're like, why didn't I know about this? Why wasn't this story told? I thought this was gossip. I mean, every time we hear something that challenges what we believe or our position or our stance, we say, no, that's not true, right? Oh, that's a lie. That's gossip. No, no, no. I remember hearing that about various things through my life, and I said, no, 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 that's a lie, and I was able to justify it in my head until the information kept coming out with more facts, more evidence, and then it was true. So this is how things happen, is that it starts off with this sense of, no, there's no way, right? That's normal for us. for all of us. Anything that challenges our opinions or our beliefs, we can shut it down. But part of what we're meant to do is to stay open, because the information and what's going to come out and transpire, it can be shocking. And it can be something that, of course, we're going to say, no way, that's not true. And you can look back at times on history when that's been the case. When it first came out around Bill Cosby, were you just like, no way, right? So there's all these situations that we need to be aware of, because the South Node in Capricorn is going to be showing us more than we knew was happening or knew was possible. And we're meant to stay in a place of inner strength and belief that through time we get what we need next. We move forward. We trust what happens next. And that is part of the South Node playing out, is that things have to go so new things can come in. So if you can be aware of that in your own life and in your own chart, it will help with this South Node in Capricorn journey. And please join me every Wednesday as we talk about the weekly energies of right now. I look forward to connecting to you then.